This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of SB. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
This is Chef Jim Smith, chef owner of the Hummingbird Way in Mobile, Alabama, and chairman of the Alabama Seafood Marketing Commission. You're listening to the Coarse Grind Podcast with Shawn Rosler.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode number 158 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. I cannot count this high, nor should I have any business doing so. With you as always this evening, host creator Shawn Rosler. How the hell is everyone doing this evening? You know, any chance I get to rope friends into projects is a chance I'm going to jump on pretty quickly. Let's be fair, it's some of the least apprehensive show prep I'll ever do. But some friends still provide a glimmer of that apprehension that, say, a celebrity chef brings to the table. Maybe it's because of how long you've known them, how high esteem you hold them in, or just how amazing they are at what they do. Well, in tonight's case, we're dealing with all three, as I can never, nor have I ever been able to, say enough things about her. Whether it's my time sharing the stage with her using ukuleles to teach people about learning theory and music, or just having drinks and basking in being invited to the cool table or being the belle of the ball, as she's labeled me before. I've never been able to fully encapsulate her awesomeness, but I will continue to try. So imagine my surprise then when she wanted to come on the show and speak to something she's equally passionate about, Southern food. Just what constitutes it, what qualifies as it, and just what the hell is the proper usage and preparation of collard greens. And when I step back and think about it, it makes total sense that she wanted to show your work. You know, showing your work has long been her mission to compel people to share imperfections. In food, do we not shield recipes, guard them, and yet imagine if we were all more open to sharing them. Concepts, ideas. It does cause the brain to wander and wonder and envision just what cuisine could be, especially if you consider that world cuisines sharing with one another has led to literally every favorite food you have. Seriously, I'll have this discussion with you anywhere, anytime. I'm getting sidetracked. Let's just say that what works in e-learning also works in cuisine and really anywhere. But we're not here to talk about my friend, colleague, and mentor's professional life. We're here to dish Southern cuisine and the life-death beliefs inherent therein. From her Southern origin to present day, second only to Art Smith, name drop, watch my feet, we're about to get a real good learning in the South. So buckle up, and as with Southern hospitality, I believe she brought a friend as well. So ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, my colleague, mentor, and dear friend, who's here to school the rest of us on the place of Southern food, the Dr. Jane Bozarth. J-Bo, how are we doing?
I'm doing fabulously, Mr. Rosler. Wow, that was some introduction. Remind me to pay you more.
I'm still waiting on last month too, Jane. So
I know.
Anytime you want to bring it on.
Checks in the mail, slow.
So with you got to tell me about your friend, because I got to glimmer a little bit of her, and she seems amazing. Sarah Beard.
Yeah, she is amazing. So, one of my missions in life, I worry that people are going to commit crimes against Southern food. I'm especially worried about people who might do something like put dark rum into banana pudding, or who think that barbecue is a verb. These are not good things. So I'm not necessarily a purist. I'm willing to make some concessions and adjustments to adapt Southern food to a more modern palate. But my friend Sarah, who lives nearby, who grew up in Mississippi, or as we like to say, Mississippi, does a lot of creative things with Southern food, sticking to the tradition, but branching out, using different seasonings, using different prep techniques, mixing in ingredients that maybe we haven't seen before, without ruining the spirit of it. So I thought that she would be a good voice to join us this evening, and I'm glad she was available. So everybody, this is Sarah Beard. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the show. It's not often I get to sit back and listen to someone else introduce somebody. That's kind of comfy. I might have to have that happen more often. Welcome and thank you. And I cannot wait to begin to unravel this mystery because, you know, true to my name-dropping self, with little to no shame about myself, you know, dropping Art Smith's name is a pretty easy in for Southern cuisine. But as we were talking about off air, like, I don't necessarily rest on that because a celebrity chef can sometimes be just that. Now, having never actually eaten Art Smith's cuisine, it's good to know that he is legit. But there's a lot of cases where that's not the case. So I'm interested to get deep, to get into it. Folks new to the program, folks with absolutely horrendous short-term memories because of too much dark rum, like yours truly. Starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we're going to talk about where the guests in question have come from on their culinary journey. Mains, we're going to talk about where they're at. But today, for the purpose of Southern cuisine, we'll talk a bit more specifically about just what constitutes it and what makes it legitimate. And finally, afters, we'll play the game. We'll have both Sarah and Dr. J. Bo engage in what has not injured anybody in 157 episodes. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen today, but no promises can be made. So I will flip the table back to J. Bo. Tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
All right, so my mom was from a fishing village on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So we had a lot of seafood. We had a freezer in the garage for the shrimp every year. My uncle had a shrimp trawler. My mom would buy 100 pounds of shrimp at least once a year. And so there was typically with that was very fresh, unadorned, unadulterated seafood, crab cakes that had just enough binding to hold the crab together, a little bit of mayonnaise, right? Not much else. We had a lot of boiled shrimp, a lot of light fried shrimp, you know, not greasy shrimp, not quite calabash, a little bit more cooked than that. Oysters, fresh oysters, right, with the brine still dripping off of them. We had a neighbor who had a big cooker who used to do oyster roast in his garage with this big cooker several times a year. So I was used to very fresh stuff from there. My dad was from the mountains of Tennessee, and his people had no seafood. There was none of that there, but they all of them were into farming. All of them had lots and lots of vegetables. All of them did a lot of home canning. And unlike a lot of Southern cooking, and we can talk about this later because, as I said, I have a thing or two to say about collard greens tonight. They didn't tend to overcook things. They tended to cook things, and they were very. I had an aunt who was one of the best cooks I ever had the pleasure, whose table gave me the most pleasure, and she would do wonderful butter beans and corn, and green beans, pole beans with like tiny little new potatoes. But she did just enough to them. They weren't cooked down too much, and they weren't over seasoned. She, by the way, had an electric butter churn.
An electric, okay. Okay, so
she made her own butter. My Aunt Hazel. It was kind of amazing. They had cows. They did their own milk. They did their own buttermilk, and she had a butter churn in the kitchen, an electric butter churn.
I mean, if you want to talk about, and it's such a cool practice because I've actually had hand churned butter. Because I guess maybe one thing the South and the Amish have in common, Amish being up here in Pennsylvania, is that whole churned butter action. There's nothing like it. There is nothing like that shit.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. But what I will say, I've made a lot of jokes, and it's not really untrue. I mean, I grew up near a military town. My mom was no longer living in the fishing village. My dad was in the Marine Corps. We were he was no longer in Tennessee, and we were still Southern, but we didn't have like fried chicken every meal. We didn't have the huge Southern meals every meal. And I used to joke that I had to wait for somebody to die before I could get deviled eggs or banana pudding because that was funeral food.
I mean,
and now I make my own deviled eggs, my own banana pudding, and I have a thing or two to say about that, but not as many things as I have to say about collards.
See, and it's so funny. I realize it's not going to be funny to you, and it's really not funny, ha-ha, like I'm a comedian. But like when I hear deviled eggs and I hear banana pudding, I just think of a side and a dessert. This is canonical stuff in the South. This is don't F around. This is like crossing yourself with the whole spectacles, testicles, wallet, watch saying, yeah, you don't do it. You don't do it, apparently. Okay, Sarah. Talk to me about where Sarah Beard came up with and what you had. I imagine it's going to be similar, not necessarily, 100 pounds of shrimp and Tennessee, but similar substance, perhaps.
Actually,
actually quite different. I grew up in the hill country of North Mississippi, and a lot of people may not realize that Mississippi is actually a lot of different regions. The hill country being the North Mississippi, the Delta, the Pine region, the capital, and then coastal where more of the seafood happens, like what Jane described. But for me, much of my childhood foods really resolved around the traditions of gardening and hunting in the area. So deer was a regular thing in our house. It was very rare for us to have ground beef. Takeout was even more rare. But we did. I vividly remember the processing days where we would be cutting and grinding deer into sausage, wrapping into freezer paper, labeling everything. It was quite a production.
That's awesome.
But of course, beyond just deer, there was also a lot of things like duck, rabbit, pheasants, even squirrel or beaver. Some strange things thrown in there as well occasionally.
Yeah, and people are often pretty quick to turn their nose up at such things until you sneak them in on them. And they don't realize just what's going on. Bear and goose are two examples from like our hunting visage up here, where like if you sneak it in, they have no idea. Or they look at you and go, "This is amazing. What is it?" You don't dare tell them because you know the reaction's coming.
Right.
That's awesome.
Sarah brings up a good point. I think that people don't realize beef is not a huge part of the Southern diet. That's more Midwest, Texas, Colorado, out that way. We eat a lot of pork. We got the barbecue. We eat. Sarah grew up eating more game than I did, but I remember pheasant and quail and some things like that in the house. But I do remember the first time I ever had goose was in Germany, where also they aren't really big on beef. They're very heavy on pork there, and the goose as well. So it's kind of interesting. I know that Sarah and I are both fans of an author named Rick Bragg, who writes about his mother's Southern cooking, and it's wonderful. If you've never read Rick Bragg, he's wonderful. But he talks about the fact he doesn't. He said he saw steak just a few times in his life when he was growing up. It was just beef is not a thing. So
That's and seafood for us was very seasonal. When it came from the Gulf fresh, that we would sometimes have shrimp, but it wasn't really until later in life that I really fell in love with seafood.
Yeah, and the Southern way is mostly to either deep fry it or to mostly unadorn it. And to New Orleans. Now, New Orleans does seafood differently. Things are usually heavily seasoned, or they're put into a gumbo, or put into something where they're putting heavy roux, or they've got a good sauce on them. So it's interesting. New Orleans kind of stands apart from a lot of the other Southern cooking.
Yes, and Southern Mississippi definitely has that flair as well, that has that Cajun influence. So there's a lot more of the same type of spices and seafood, of course. The shrimp and crab, a lot more of that in the coastal region. After Katrina, we actually had a lot of people move north to North Mississippi and brought some of those culinary traditions with them, which I've been glad to see some more seafood in that area that was not there when I was growing up.
Yeah, and here we are up north just steaming clams. We're so lame. When you talk about that, I have to listen. I'm going to throw us under the bus collectively because I'm the first one to throw the stone at the glass house. All we do is put it in a bucket of goddamn water and steam them. What the hell is it? Oh, here's a bay leaf. This will be flavorful. You guys have like hardcore shit. When it comes to your seafood, it's like, hold my beer. We're pouring shit in this, and it's going to be a red Satan oil. Oh, yeah, like you got it right. Yeah. Okay, so you come up with this awesome stuff. You've already got one up on us. I got it. You lost the Civil War, but you won the culinary war. Fine. I'm good to live with that right now.
Well, but I don't want to get us into trouble. But let's talk not so much the Civil War, but what else was going on in the South. We owe an enormous amount, probably the vast majority of the Southern cooking tradition to the folks who came here involuntarily and brought things with them, like grits and yams and okra and the cooking tradition.
Absolutely. The grits
we
thing.
owe an enormous debt to people who brought their traditions from Africa to our country and taught us how to cook these things.
Absolutely.
Peanuts.
Yep. Peanut, all that. And the thing is, when we talk about even New Orleans and the Cajun culture, so having once been in a former life an English teacher, we learned about pigeon tongues and the way the Creole tongue came in and how, the slave trade influenced the language that developed in various regions of the South. Fantastic. What I think we should focus a hell of a lot more time on is how cuisine developed and how boring as all hell it would have been were it not for these beautiful human beings who introduced spice and flavor and everything. My 10-year-old, sorry, he's 11 now. Jesus, what's happening? I'm getting old. We enrolled him in a program called Eat to Explore, and he just did Ethiopia. Now, you don't necessarily think like offhand Ethiopia, flavorful cuisine, but one of the world's most flavorful spice combinations, berbere, comes from there. And he made berbere, he made misir wat and doro wat, and it was one of the most flavorful things I've ever eaten. And so, like, spices came from over there. They didn't come from here. I hate to tell people. We didn't come up with shit. We showed up. Maybe we raised a couple animals. But trust me, they don't taste good without what they're bringing to the table. So anyway, that aside, protein specificity is such a cool thing to focus on, too. Like, why is beef, common here? Why is pork common here? Why is fowl, avian, and oceanic proteins popular elsewhere? But perhaps for another time, I want to talk specifically, now knowing a little bit about your backgrounds, about specific dishes that maybe try as you may, you can't reproduce, or that you miss with just a nostalgic pain in your heart. And I'll start with you, Sarah. Talk to me about some dishes growing up in Hill Country, Mississippi, that really kind of like leave you still today wanting it.
One first thing that pops in my mind is Brunswick Stew, like a true hunter's stew that was made with at least 3 different kinds of game, typically duck, rabbit, something else. But just there was nothing like it, and I haven't had a real true Brunswick stew in years.
Brunswick stew.
My grandfather used to make like a huge, huge kettle kind of cooker.
Yeah, Brunswick stew is one of those things I had never heard of until you just said it, and now that I hear it, I'm like, I have to have this sooner than later. This is not something, we have necessarily at the ready here in the area.
We have a barbecue joint here that does a reasonable facsimile. It includes chicken and pork barbecue. It's missing the game. It's missing the third protein. It's pretty good. I might be able to fix you up. I might be able to make this happen for you. It's delicious. It's delicious. Brunswick stew with some cornbread is a perfect meal.
Oh, man.
Right. I had there's a barbecue place that's close to where Jane and I are that does have a decent Brunswick stew. But it's like you said, it's missing the game and some of the other, I think, fresh vegetables that butter beans and things like that would always get thrown in, because it was really a clean out your freezer kind of throw everything in this giant pot and make this huge vat of stew.
Well, first of all, Sarah, the place I'm talking about does use butter beans and corn, so we need to compare notes. But Shawn, Brunswick stew is something in the fall. A lot of local churches do a big Brunswick stew sale, and they have cauldrons out back of the church.
Yes, cauldron. That's what I was trying.
Cauldron, and you drive by and they hook you up with a pint or two of the Brunswick stew. It's a thing.
So, does this get as gang sign as up here in the north? I have to say the Catholic churches. Catholic versus Presbyterian pizza sales, they're throwing gang signs. They're ready to, kick each other's ass over whose pizza is better. So, does this become, gang territory for Brunswick stew in the churches?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure sure it does. I know that at one point, my brother, who at the time was living in Richmond, Virginia, his church was much besmirched for not doing a good enough job of getting the chicken bones out of the Brunswick Stew and the Collards.
That's an absolute cardinal sin. I mean, obviously.
The church ladies probably get into it with the casseroles more than anything else.
It's delicious. I didn't know you didn't know about this. I will see what I can do to make that happen for you.
That would be just a damn shame if that happened.
I'll bring my own cornbread, though.
And you know what? I make Sarah's cornbread now. Sarah gave me a cornbread recipe from a few months ago, and it's the only thing I make, and it takes nothing. There's hardly any ingredients, so I throw that together once a week.
Well, and to me, that's really what Southern food is really about, is making the most that you can out of really minimal ingredients.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Southern foods to talk about, because, you know, you have your cast iron skillet and 4 ingredients: cornmeal, egg, buttermilk, and bacon grease. And you just have to know when it looks right. Yeah, Jane and I have joked quite a bit about so many of our Southern recipes that, you know, that's included in there. You know, you mix it until it looks right.
That's it. But that's it. And how much? And I don't know. Maybe this waxes a little bit learning. And I hate to do this, but I mean, Jesus, I got Jane on the phone. I kind of have to. You know, turning a skill into an instinct. You know, I think that's what true mastery of the art is, especially in the culinary field.
Well, sometimes it's just repetition. I mean, you can ask anybody for their Southern mother or grandmother for their biscuit recipe. You're not really going to have one. It'll be a handful of this and about this much that, and until it feels good, until it looks right. But my husband's grandmother used to make 4 dozen biscuits every morning. There were 7 or 8 kids. They had them for breakfast. They used them for sandwiches for lunch. Whatever she did, she just sort of grabbed a handful of this or 9 pounds of that and made up some biscuits every day, you know. So,
I mean, whatever works.
Making biscuits is another art. And the real trick with cornbread is that your skillet just has to be really, really hot. So I put in the oven while the oven warms up, leave it in there for a little bit longer, and you have to make sure it is sizzling hot when you pour your mix in, and that way you get the wonderful crispiness around the edges.
Love it. Because, okay, here again, I'm going to throw the North under the bus. So it's almost as if, you know, the audio is trying to protect Northern cornbread, the Northern cuisine in general. Northern cornbread shouldn't be a thing, ever. And I fully own that. So there's my statement on it.
Is there a such thing as Northern cornbread?
There is. I love the pause. The pause is appropriate. I'm not going to lie. It's cornbread we make up here. That's about where it ends. There's no more purpose behind it. It's just shit we make up here. So there you go. So Brunswick Stew.
If it has sugar in it, it is not cornbread.
That's right. Brunswick Stew aside, Jane, talk to me about a food that you had growing up that you miss, like heartache miss.
Heartache miss was my mother's fried chicken. She's been gone since I was a kid. She died when I was in high school. And there has been one restaurant since then, the Murphy House in Lewisburg, North Carolina, made fried chicken that tasted just like my mother's. And I used to go there. They had a buffet, and I used to eat like half a dozen chicken legs because that's what I liked so much when I was a kid, and it tasted just like hers. And she made a cream gravy to go with it. I'm not I like fried chicken, I do, and good fried chicken can't be beat, but it's not my favorite thing in the whole world. It's not something I crave very often, but my mother's was delicious, and I do miss that, and I have tried. I'm not much of a deep fry kind of cooker anyway. I mean, we don't really eat like that too much anymore. But I could never get it right. And she made a cream gravy, a milk gravy that went with it with the chicken fat in it. It was just delicious over a biscuit. Now my grandmother wasn't a biscuit maker. She used to make yeast rolls every day. She called them hard rolls, and they weren't really varied, but they were delicious, soft bread, deep brown color. They were wonderful. She put them in a like mold them and cook them in like a cake pan, a round pan, and they were wonderful. And I'm not much of a yeast bread baker, and it doesn't keep very well. The stuff got eaten the same day. That's one of the things about cooking like that, is that the food is usually good, you cook what you need that day, like the biscuits.
Right.
But I do miss my mom's fried chicken. Unfortunately, the restaurant that had the chicken that was so much like hers is closed. And I think they tore it down and put up a gas station last I heard. So I haven't had that again anywhere, but it was delicious.
Awesome. And I mean, it's so true that the story you take away from food is sometimes so much more meaningful than the flavor itself. You know, like the moments you had it in, I'm sure you can remember. It's awesome.
Well, the funeral, Shawn. Somebody was always dead when I got the banana pudding.
That's right. You had to wait for the funeral. Red deviled eggs and banana pudding.
I have a lot of feelings attached to it because somebody died and I got deviled. You know, there's an old expression in the South that says, "You give us a body and some potato salad, we'll have us a funeral."
That's awesome.
It's true. No matter whether we're celebrating or we're mourning, we're going to eat.
I love it.
Right. We're eating the potato salad, and it might have sat out in the sun all day and nobody died from that. So
there you go. That's something to celebrate. There it is. There it is. So, okay. So we've got the backdrop. We have the backdrop established. I want to talk about some Southern staples, and more importantly, step back and let you talk about them, because I have no place talking about them. I'm going to mention some Southern foods that I consider Southern. Maybe they're not. Maybe I'm wrong. And I want you to just explain to me your stance on them, what constitutes a real version of it. And I'm going to start with my personal favorite, sausage gravy.
Yeah.
Yes. Love sausage gravy.
Yeah.
So for the folks at home who maybe don't enjoy it, what is it and what makes it good?
Well, it's a cream gravy, and I like mine with hot country sausage in it, like spicy country sausage and a lot of black pepper and over a buttered biscuit. I don't think there's much better on this planet. Sarah, what say you?
Yeah, that was my thoughts as well. There's nothing like it over a hot buttermilk biscuit.
Absolutely. There's a comedian, Jim Gaffigan. Maybe you've heard his bit on biscuits and gravy, where he says, I was going through the South and they gave me biscuits and gravy, and it's like a pound of cement in your stomach. And while I agree with that, there's no better pound of cement that I think you could put in your stomach than biscuits and gravy, hands down.
Well, Jim Gaffigan. There's a video I've seen on Facebook over the years. It pops up every year. So where they gave some non-Southern people some Southern food to eat. And one guy had a biscuit, I think it was red-eye gravy. I don't think it was sausage gravy. He said, "This is like a hug from the Lord."
Yes. Amen.
Wonderful
red-eye
thing.
Absolutely.
I don't think red-eye gravy is Southern, though. I suspect that's Western.
All right. So let's jump in feet first. Jane, I'm going to go to you because I know you've been waiting all day, maybe, like you've been thinking about this all day. Collards, go.
Collards. Oh my gosh, about the collards. So several years ago, I have been getting Bon Appetit magazine. My dad gave me a subscription to Bon Appetit when I was in college, and I have never not subscribed. I've never let it lapse. And once in a while, they decide they're going to go do some regional story. And one time, it's been several years now, they were going to do this profile of Southern cooking. And first of all, the first thing that went wrong was the Hawthorne effect, because these women, when they heard they were going to be featured in the fancy New York magazine, all of a sudden started putting stuff like truffle oil in the collards.
Oh.
Which is just a lie. They never owned truffle oil till the day Bon Appetit came up the driveway. The Sydney collard showed up. So my thing about the collard greens, I have actually had two great servings of collard greens in the last month. One of them is by a local chef who's running what has become called a ghost kitchen. He has a catering kitchen that he doesn't have weddings and he doesn't have parties, so he's doing meals out of his back door. You drive up and he puts a meal out, and they're delicious. But he did wonderful collards recently that were very flavorful. They were full of meat. I suspect a chopped up ham hock or some kind of pork like that. Yeah. But he hadn't cooked them to mush, which is one of the things I think Southern cooking could do better with. I think sometimes we have a history of overcooking vegetables, of cooking things down too soft. So they were cooked kind of al dente, and they were very flavorful and delicious. They were excellent. The other good collards I had is from a bakery in Oxford, North Carolina, which is a little bit north of here. And they are enhancing the collards. Again, they didn't overcook them too much, but they enhance them with the things, not truffle oil, but the things that we would put in them, like some onion, a little bit of apple cider vinegar. They put in something that had a little kick, a little spicy kick. I suspect it was a little bit of the Texas Pete pickled pepper sauce. And so what they did, they weren't overdone, where I've seen people try to fancy them up too much. Sarah, do you have anything to say about any of that?
I think one of the biggest mistakes with collard greens is having a ton of stems in there. You know, there's some places around here that have really good greens if they would cut the stems out of them. But personally, me, I really love a vinegar pepper sauce. You know, I made quite a bit of last year because we had so many peppers in the garden. And that just simple Tabasco peppers in vinegar. After that infuses, turns into a little bottle of magic. And that's what I love to have on my greens.
Yeah, me too. I like pepper sauce. And Shawn, a lot of times the sauce, I guess you know this, I'm speaking to your audience more than Shawn, is that the sauce that the collards cook in, the water that cooks out the broth, is called pot liquor. And it is delicious with some cornbread. Yes. So we eat it up. But I think my complaint about the collards is when they're overcooked and they're too mushy and they've lost their flavor. They're still very, very green, but they've lost their flavor. And the thing about somebody deciding to throw in a weird off the wall ingredient like truffle oil, it doesn't work and it's not natural, and it doesn't, you know, the tradition of the food has things that complement it that work really well with it, and you can play within certain parameters, but the truffle oil is it was too strange. It was too weird. And it's too I don't want to just say it's inauthentic, because that's not the only point, but it doesn't work. They kind of miss the point when they do something like that to it.
Yeah, I have to think of it in the same way I do think of design. Does it add anything to this? Right. And I'm not sure that truffle oil really adds anything that you want in your collard greens.
No, it just kind of said to me, this is not somebody who knows what this is supposed to taste like. And the change they made didn't make it better, right? So,
Long story short, it's like putting a Tiffany tennis bracelet on to change a diaper. Like, you don't need to gussy it up that hard. Like, just relax. Just let it be. Just let it be a process. I think one of the biggest culinary affronts we commit is trying to over-formalize that which should be left the hell alone.
Leave alone.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Big time. So, and for my northern cohorts, of which there are many, what exactly constitutes a collard green?
Well, collards grow. I mean, there are collards. It's a plant, and they grow in the ground, and you need about 8 million of them to get, 9 servings. I once saw somebody say they bought 3 or 4 collard leaves at the grocery store. I'm like, well, that's a start. They're a leafy green plant. They're sort of a winter crop, which makes them good in the in the off season when you don't have a lot of other vegetables. But they're just a big leafy green. I mean, they look, I guess, like a cabbage or a lettuce or a plant like that. Sarah's the gardener. I'll throw it to her.
Yeah, it's definitely in that family.
But collard's a specific plant. Turnip is something else. Turnips, grow in the ground. They have a bulb root vegetable, but then they have tops. Collard's just like a leafy green.
Collards are just greens.
But to the point, there's another example I'll give, and then I want Sarah to talk some more about Shawn's point about the things that are too off or too weird or were unnecessary. I have a friend who married a food critic. He's from where are the Fighting Okra, Sarah? Is that Mississippi or Alabama?
Yeah, that's Mississippi. That's
Mississippi.
Go Fighting Okra.
the mighty okra. He is living here now, and he's married to one of our local food critics. And he wanted his mother's banana pudding, to your point about what are things you missed from your childhood. And so she gets out cookbooks, and he tells her what's in it. And she makes this banana pudding, and it looked fine. It looked right. And she sat it down in front of him, served him up a dish, and he put a bite in his mouth, and he spit it out. He said, what the hell have you done to my banana pudding? And she said, well, I just added a little dark rum. Is that wrong? It's like,
Hell yes, it's wrong.
Yes. Yes, it's wrong. It's the wrong. You know, add more vanilla, add more banana. You don't mess with the banana pudding. So.
You don't mess with it. You don't mess with the banana pudding. It's like the Big Lebowski. You don't mess with the Jesus.
Well, you know, if you want rum with your bananas, make a nice bananas foster. It's delicious.
Or just eat a banana and drink some rum. Like, stop complicating things. Shit. All right, next Southern food. I gotta ask. Pork rinds. Talk to me about the pork rind and its place in Southern cuisine.
I'm gonna let Sarah talk.
Pork rinds, I like them if they're fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I've had them in some restaurants that will literally fry them in the back and serve them piping hot. That is when they are the very best, and they go downhill from there.
Agree completely. Agree completely.
Pork rinds, I'm a fan. Little hot sauce, a few beers, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's just a nice little snack.
Yes, agree. What say you, Jeba?
I like pork rinds. I don't think of them often. If somebody has them, like I'm somebody's house and they have a bowl out for snacks, I think they're delicious. I don't really think to buy them. Once in a while at a local grocery store, like a local country-ish grocery store, they will have some fresh ones, like Sarah said, and they are better. And we have a local tapas place that uses them as a garnish.
Yeah. Oh,
and
terrific.
That's pretty good because it adds a nice crunch without really adding any weight because they're airy. I mean, there's hardly anything to them. But a good spicy pork rind, I like a whole lot.
Absolutely. No, I kind of freaked my kids out. Now, Jane knows my kids. Sarah, you don't. We were in Mexico. We have a timeshare in Puerto Vallarta, and I love Mexican culture, fluent in Spanish, what have you, whatever. So we go, and we take them down into town, and I walk them by this open-air butcher, and they have literally a fish tank. I'm shitting you not, a fish tank full of fresh chicharron. Like, they are deep frying them on the street, and I just dip my hand in, and I grab one, and it was like, it was like sex in a bite. Like, it was just perfect. Fucking perfect. So...
Can we talk about something before we move on from pork rinds, though? Because I know Sarah also has something to say about this.
Yes, go.
I know that you think that pork rinds are the Southern thing we want to talk about, but what we want to talk about are boiled peanuts.
Let's go. Yes, that was on my list.
Now there's some love.
There is love. Oh, man.
Just explain to me in my stupid northernness why you would, and I'm owning it. Listen to me. I've been to therapy. I'm owning this. Why would you boil a fucking peanut? Like,
oh my God!
Explain it to me. Like I'm 5.
All right. So, especially the more rural areas you get to, you might go find a stand on the side of the road that says boiled peanuts, and it used to be where a lot of the old country gas stations back on the back roads would have 2 crock pots sitting on a table in the back. And one would be regular and one would be Cajun spicy. And it was a great thing to be able to just grab this huge cup of spicy Cajun peanuts, go down to the lake, go fishing, or, wherever you're going. That's one of my memories anyways is, grabbing them on the road, and there's nothing else like them. I mean, some people might think that they're slimy or just have texture issues with them, but if they're cooked right, they still have a little bit of crunch, almost like an al dente to them as well.
Yeah.
So if they've been in the crock pot for 3 or 4 days, they're probably going to be pretty mushy by the time you get to them.
I have some. There's a store. I went into a store in Blowing Rock, North Carolina last summer that had 2 crock pots, regular and spicy, and I got a couple of pounds of those and shared them with some friends. They were delicious. Shawn, they're in the shell. And they're in a brine in the shell.
And they have to be raw green peanuts if you're doing this at home.
Right. And you might not be able to get those where you live. It might also be a Southern thing. They're delicious. And when you pick one up, you got it's gotten soft, so you get a peanut in the shell, you suck the brine out, and that's delicious. It does wonders for your blood pressure. And then, and then you bite down a little on the shell, and the peanuts come out, and they're like Sarah said, they're kind of al dente, and they're delicious. And I can get canned boiled peanuts for you, and I will send you some. In fact, I have some. I have some here tonight, this very night, and I have some real ones, homemade ones, in my freezer.
I wish the two of you could see my face right now. I'm so goddamn confused. All I can picture is this like this sack, you know, because like me, peanuts, bar peanuts, man, I'm throwing the shell on the floor, like, and that's where it stopped. I will say, local gas station, which I'm a firm proponent of the gas station cuisine, and I know that's a South thing. I love gas station cuisine. There's a gas station down the hill from us that has deep fried peanuts, like in shell, and they're pretty awesome. Okay. But so I think this is like, that's kind of like smoking a joint, and this is like straight up heroin. We're talking about boiling peanuts. Like, I gotta be like all in or nothing for this, apparently.
They're really good. We'll definitely get you some to at least try. The ones in the can are not as good as making them from the raw green peanuts.
I agree.
They'll do in a pinch.
Yeah. But they're a great cocktail snack because they're so salty, and you can. Yeah,
they're great for drinking beer.
Oh, exactly. Yep. Exactly. But I mean, the chicharron, the pork rind, the boiled peanut, like the South has kind of an edge. I mean, God damn it, you got the mint julep, you got like all these bitchin' bourbons, like you kick ass. You're the fun version of us right now, except for politics.
Well,
but
Kentucky.
I mean, we have all the bourbons with Kentucky.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next one, chitlins. What are they?
They're pig intestines, and they're not my thing.
Okay.
I've had them, I've tried them, and I don't get it, but they're popular. So, you can get them at restaurants here, like at the local farmer's market has a restaurant, you can get them. But they're just not my thing.
Right on.
Yeah, I have to put that in the same category as like gizzards and
tripe.
Yeah. No,
okay.
thank you.
Yeah, no, it's an acquired taste. It's no joke.
Well, it does speak to using the whole hog, from the head cheese to the ears, to the trotters, to the feet. I mean, people may do. Like I said, to get back to an earlier point, we didn't have a lot of people raising cows. We have people who had dairy cows. We don't raise beef cattle here much. And so, you would have a hog for your family for the year, and you would kill it, and you ate every scrap. So,
exactly.
Down to the head cheese and the couple pig feet.
I was just going to say, last one, trotters.
Also not my thing.
Okay.
But Sarah?
Trotters?
Pig's feet. Pig's feet.
Pickle pig feet.
Or pickle,
No. Not for me.
That's
it's interesting though that you pick those things. Like you pick the pork rinds when we really don't have much to say about them. We're all about the boiled peanuts. Sarah, what's he missing? What are things we would count as okra?
We've missed the fried vegetables, fried green tomatoes, okra, squash.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, fried
vegetables.
Fried green tomatoes, I am 1,000% down with. We do fried chicken, and I dare say we do it well. We do it in a 3-step process. Like, it's not just drop it in oil and pull it. No, it's more than that. It's, buttermilk soak rather first, dredge, twice fried. So, we're definitely there. And the fried greens, I guarantee you we're not even in the same class as any of you. But we do try. That's a good flavor profile. I love that. It's the acid versus the fried.
Are you aware of the feuds that have occurred over generations over coleslaw between North and South Carolina?
I am, because isn't the one mayonnaise based and the other vinegar based?
Well, that's okay. Well, there's three.
Okay.
There's no. There's one is mayonnaise based. That's kind of where I am, and it's coastal, and it kind of goes with all the seafood and the barbecue here. The South Carolinians are Philistines, and they put mustard in their coleslaw.
That's disgusting. Why would they do that?
Well, they like it that way. But then we have the crazy people in the mountains of North Carolina. They put ketchup in theirs. It's red.
What the shit? No.
I know.
No.
It's good, though. Actually, I have to say they're all really good. I just, what we get around here is the sort of plainer, cleaner, cold Cold mayonnaise based.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, being from the north and having been up to Maine in the last year or two, having lobster rolls, there was nothing better than a good, nice dense mayonnaise coleslaw to go along with the lobster roll. However, I can see that if you're dealing with, pork fat, pig fat, you want something acidic to cut through, so you want a mustard or a vinegar, which the ketchup would carry through. All right, fine. You might win that one. Honorable mention for Southern cuisine concepts, and I mentioned it before, and I got to know what your stance is. The gas station as a culinary institution.
Yes.
See, there are so many people up here that would lose their freaking minds and be like, that's gross, dude. Why would you eat something from a gas station? Okay, first of all, shut up. Second of all, go ahead. So go get them, Jane.
You're gonna get fresh pork rinds.
That's what I'm saying.
I will tell you what, Shawn, my favorite comedian is Kathleen Madigan.
Yes.
Who at the moment, because she's in lockdown, is doing a podcast. One of the features weekly of her podcast is gas station food.
It's great. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So
I'll fight anybody. Oh.
One of my favorites from Oxford, Mississippi is chicken on a stick. And it's little cubes of chicken fried up on a stick, and it's fantastic.
I know what we haven't talked about. She she'll go in and try anything because she's on the road so much. She gets rental cars and she drives around. She loves, what's your favorite? Buc-ee's. She loves Buc-ee's, which is, I think, out of Texas. I know what we haven't discussed, you and your pork rinds, Shawn Rosler. We haven't even mentioned moon pies.
Oh, God. Well, we didn't go to dessert yet, but by all means, let's go.
Okay.
Let's rock.
I'm just thinking of Southern things that Jane likes right now.
Yeah, no. So moon pies, for those unaware, I know their commercial presentation. I have to imagine there's probably a more homemade version of it, but it's 2 graham cracker wafers, marshmallow filling.
No.
Oh, there's not. Okay.
We don't make no damn moon pies.
Thank God. Jesus, I was about to have a heart attack.
But we get them at the gas station is what made me think of them. No, we don't make moon pies.
No,
You're thinking of those Yankees and their whoopie pies. We don't do that here.
I'm not going to lie. That's exactly why.
That made me laugh.
I'm sure someone has tried it, but
some chef somewhere, some uppity chef tried to make a homemade moon pie. They tried to doll that up, probably put dark rum in it.
Infuse it with dark rum and banana pudding. No, you didn't. No, yeah, the moon pie. I've had a couple. I'm not gonna lie. Developed a cavity within like 1.2 seconds of chewing it. I mean, it's nothing but. I mean, it's as sweet as anything I think I've ever tasted.
Just a s'more, isn't it?
Boy, I think it's beyond a s'more. I think it's a s'more for people looking to.
Well, that's why we don't send any to the Yankee towns.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, I think we'll stick with the whoopie pies. I'd improve a lot of things we have up here culinarily. I will be the first to admit that, but I think I'll stick with the whoopie pies. Now, I gotta ask, looking at Southern cuisine collectively, because I have 2 experts on the phone with me right now, what are trends in Southern cuisine right now that you see? Now, obviously, the restaurant industry is kind of in a pinch spot as we speak, but I think there's still trends that kind of come up and come down in cuisines, and Southern being a very notable one. Are there any trends going on in Southern cuisine that you see that you're kind of like, oh, I like it, or boo, I hate it?
I think everyone has their own take on shrimp and grits. That's definitely been one that I've seen. Of course, we're not getting out very much right now, so it's hard to say what might be.
Yeah. Well,
I like. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say we're doing a lot more cooking than exploring our restaurants very much these days.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that the restaurants, we have a lot of, they're finding ways to repurpose. They're doing takeout, they're doing curbside, they're doing the ghost kitchens. But I think I take a lot of, I think it's encouraging that I have had such good recent Collard experiences with chefs who are trying to keep the spirit of them, but improve them. Like I said, not overcooking them, not seasoning them the wrong things, but trying to sort of stick to the position. I hope we see more of that.
Yeah.
And we have several really good local chefs. I mean, Ashley Christensen is here. Vivian Howard is 2 hours away.
Vivian, Vivian, call me.
Vivian the farmer,
Yeah.
Chef the Farmer.
Yeah.
So we have good people doing good stuff with food, and it's kind of true to the tradition. What I have noticed lately, though, I think that I'm starting to see some influence on Southern cooking coming from, we were getting an increasingly large Hispanic population.
Nice.
And I'm starting, a lot of workers coming in, a lot of construction, a lot of farm. I'm starting to see some of that influencing what used to be more traditional Southern food, and I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to see more use of ingredients, cornmeal used in different ways, polenta used where maybe we would have used a potato before, some things like that are sneaking in, and I kind of like that.
That's awesome. That's
also,
awesome.
lots of pork in that culture, right? They're bringing in lots of pork, so they eat a lot of pork. So.
Exactly. Carnitas is one of the best things ever to exist in the culinary scene, full stop. Awesome. And, to your point, Sarah, the whole grits thing, I didn't get a chance to get into this, but, grits in and of themselves are this lightning rod for discussion because, up here, like, we think Quaker instant grits and we're out. Well, I say we. I'm not in that we. Please don't associate me with them. But then you have these brand names of grits that not only are brand names, but Jesus, again, like knife fight style, like, don't you dare use that kind of grits. You're going to use this kind of grits. And what's funny, not funny, but perhaps like analytically, like causes you to pause is that there's some pretty heavy race-based history in some of these names. One of the types of grits we've used is Geechee Boy grits. And I didn't know, and I can't necessarily speak to it right now. I don't have the sheets in front of me, but there was a long slave trade tradition behind Geechee Boy, and that's where the brand name came from. Still exists, and, they're still sold across the South. But, this is one type of grits. So, I mean, corn with a history a mile long. And so, like, grits, to me, are a whole dissertation. It's a whole coursework. Like, you could spend your life, I think, eating different types of grits and having different experiences. And, go Southern experts, tell me more about grits and their place.
Well, I definitely have my favorites. Stone ground all the way. But there's a couple of brands out of Mississippi that anytime I go home, I load up. I flew back one time with 49 pounds worth of grits and books in my suitcase. Just barely made it under the 50-pound limit.
That sounds like a country song.
Yeah, Grit Girl and Delta Grind are two out of Mississippi that fantastic grits. Nice.
I care less about the brand. I like good Southern browns. I like a good coarse ground. I like stone ground. I like my grits a little on the dry side. Some people make them very runny. And I like them a little drier. Some people bake them and you can slice them. I mean, you can slice them into squares and serve them, and I like them that way too. So I like mine a little drier, and I don't much care. There's another factions that have set twos about cheese grits versus not. Some people think they're all that, and I really don't like them. I like them with some butter, a lot of salt and butter.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I love the cheese grits.
So
yeah, I've seen them served in the polenta style, where they're dry enough that you can cut them. I've also had them wet. Like I've never not enjoyed grits, put it that way. And that probably speaks to the fact that I'm Northern, but I love them. I think they're so hearty and delicious, and bacon, shrimp, grits, cheese, like, God, I'm there for it. Put aside a bourbon with it. I'm out. I'm done, man. Kill me. I'm good.
And I'm just so sad for anyone that has only had Quaker instant grit. That's not grits.
No. And Quaker instant oatmeal isn't oatmeal either. Sorry, kids. Your parents are failing you. Not the kids.
I think what frustrates me, to Sarah's point, are when people have tried some of these things and they didn't get good versions of them. Like Jim Gaffigan shouldn't have felt like that.
Yeah.
Sausage gravy was a rock in his stomach. Bad grits are just runny and kind of flavorless. If you don't cook them right, you don't season them right. Grits need a lot of salt, is for one thing, and we just have to deal with that. People who haven't had really great fried chicken have only had KFC, which is fine, but it's too bad that, or bad collards when they're cooked in mush and not flavored very well. It's a shame people don't get a better experience And a lot of times, I will say this, a lot of times the touristy places are the worst. I had one of the worst Southern meals ever in Atlanta, Georgia, at a famous place downtown. It was terrible. Every single thing was bad. And it was like, really, and people have come thinking they're getting this Southern experience. However, if you go to Atlanta, go to Art's.
Yes.
That was the best Southern food I've ever had in a restaurant. He hit every note right.
Art Smith, buddy of the Coarse Grind Podcast. How could we not plug him? Just opened up something in Florida too. Although, I don't know what the status of it is right now. So maybe I should pull that one back a little bit. But so yeah, definitely. I think there's authentic and I think there's inauthentic. And Bourdain said, "Don't be the traveler, or rather, don't be the tourist, be the traveler." Branch out.
It wasn't just that it wasn't authentic. It was just bad. The grits they were too runny and thin and unseasoned, and the greens had been overcooked, left sitting somewhere for a day. It was probably authentic if your mother was a terrible cook, but it wasn't good. It wasn't.
How do you like to cook your grits, Jane?
I like to cook them. I use milk, and I use more than the recipe says, and I cook them longer than the recipe says. And like I said, I like to cook mine down. I will set some aside for Kent, for instance, and then I'll have my own. I'll cook them down some more until they're thicker.
Nice.
They don't have to be fileted. They don't have to be sliceable, but I like them kind of on the dry side.
Okay.
And then butter, but lots of salt, lots of milk.
Nice. How about you, Sarah?
I like to do mine in chicken broth. And then add half and half or heavy cream, usually just half and half because we usually have that on hand. And then cook them down about the same way where they're not runny, pretty thick. And then I add a big handful of cheese and some butter.
Stop it.
And salt and pepper. Good to go.
Love it.
I'm coming over.
Yeah, I'm there. I'll bring the beer. Oh wait, that's for with pork rinds and boiled peanuts, apparently. See, I'm already speaking the Southern lingo. I got this.
There you go.
I got it. I'm in.
We'll have plenty of beer on hand.
I got it. I'm in. So if you had to name, here's again, I'm gonna open up the vest here. I'm gonna take a couple bullets for the North. What is your least favorite, quote unquote, Northern food or food type item? Go. I'll take it. Like, what just goes right through you?
I don't know that I give much thought to Northern food, Shawn.
All right, that's even more hurtful, damn it.
I'm sorry. Name us some Northern food things.
Let's see. We mentioned the Whoopie Pie, chicken pot pie.
Is chicken pot pie? I'm not. Are you sure that's a Northern thing?
So here's why it's a Northern thing. Here we go. If you say chicken pot pie and I say chicken pot pie, they're two different things, I think. So pot pie up here, Pennsylvania Dutch specifically, is the dough cut up into squares, put in a pot, and it's in a soup. As opposed to actual...
That's chicken and dumplings.
Okay, now listen.
Yeah, that's chicken and dumplings to me.
I'm going to risk my marriage on air here, and I don't give a shit about it. So Greta grew up in the Lehigh Valley around the Pennsylvania Dutch, and she has said chicken pot pie for years. And I had never had it this way before, and she gave it to me once. I said, "Oh, is this chicken and dumplings?" And it was like I called the Pope an asshole. Like, you would have sworn I had committed some major felony. And I'm like, what? And so since that day, I've had to call it chicken pot pie. I'm so glad to hear you say that. Okay, so we'll push that.
You call it, I didn't think of it as a Northern thing. I guess as we call it something else, and I like it fine. Here, we think of chicken pot pie as a crust. A crust,
and
like chunks of chicken and some vegetables and sort of a white broth. Now, my mother-in-law used to make it it was just like a biscuit crust, like a soft, doughy crust, and just chicken without the vegetables. And that was good too, but I would have liked some carrot or peas or something, maybe some celery in it.
Yeah, just something to give it a little tooth.
I don't find any of these things objectionable.
Yeah. What else is Northern? Well, we have to touch on the cheesesteak. The Philly cheesesteak. Are we fans? Are we not?
Cheesesteak. Love a good cheesesteak.
Okay.
I don't know what's to hate about these things yet, Shawn. Find something. Ask us about Scrapple, I guess.
Okay. Here's the thing on that. I've never touched it. I never will.
Haven't either.
Bullshit.
About it.
No, thank you. I'm out. I can't do that. There's no good reason. And people will swear up and down. Again, Pennsylvania Dutch thing. They'll swear up and down how good it is. Oh, you just pan-sear the hell out of it and then pour maple syrup on it. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What doesn't match up here? What exactly doesn't match up? You have slaughterhouse floor contents and maple syrup. What am I missing?
Well, that's an interesting point, though. Maple is not a flavor we encounter much here.
Okay.
We will see like apple cider donuts, but we don't see maple flavored donut. Not much. I mean, it's around. It's in syrup. It's just not a flavor. Probably because of location geography, we just don't see it much. So.
Okay. Okay. The Whoopie Pie. I know we mentioned it before. For it, against it. I mean, compared to a moon pie, I know moon pie is winning.
Well, no, they're just different. I don't object to a Whoopie Pie.
Okay.
I don't know that I've had Whoopie Pie.
Whoopie Pie is, again, it's interesting. Again, it's a Pennsylvania Dutch. A lot of what you would have in the North is definitely PA Dutch or Dutch influenced in origin. So we really don't have that much, honestly, to offer up. I guess in retrospect, trying to compare Northern food to Southern food, it's just not even fair. Like you folks have written the book.
Well, but I would say where we have regional Southern, like you get some of the Gula stuff in South Carolina, you get Creole in New Orleans. We do have pockets of that kind of thing, but Southern is a real big, broad term here, where you have sort of pockets of like the Polish community has great sausages and pierogies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got kind of this. You've got Jewish communities with wonderful chicken broth things and matzo ball things, and I think maybe it's more ethnic pockets of food types where you are than it is down here. Did that make sense? I'm really worried about offending people. With
No. You're spot on. You're missing the Scranton, Pennsylvania Irish community.
Right. And Pennsylvania Dutch,
Yes, Scranton Irish bring a healthy arrest record to the table for St. Patty's Day parade. Yeah. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. That's all we have to claim. Corned beef. I mean, that's really all we got. But like, if you look at this is the part that maddens me. Okay, we talked about before about like the boiling seafood and the flavors and everything like that, and how we just steam shit. We have pierogies. They're done in butter. Yawn. We have these sausages that are just boiled. Like, that's literally what we do up here. We're boring. We're sad. We are. It's fine. I admit it. I own it. Okay, fine. So, again, I'm going to go back to the culinary war. And, I mean, you all have it down pat. Like you all have it won. I'm not going to lie. Take all the pierogi, all the halushki, all the halupki you could possibly find. It doesn't even hold a candle to good, solid sausage gravy at the end of the day. No question.
Okay. I won't argue with that. Okay.
No. And there's no argument here. Let's transition real quick into afters. I'm interested now that the South has risen again, at least on the Coarse Grind podcast, and won the culinary war. Because let's be honest, you've got a better cuisine than us, 99 times out of 100. But I got to ask you some questions now, specifically about you as culinary people, as cooks in your own kitchen. I'll start with you, Sarah. If we were cooking together in your kitchen, what music would we be listening to?
I guess that would really depend on my mood or what we were cooking. It could be anything from old school blues like Big Bill Brunswick or Robert Johnson,
nice.
Or classic rock, Janis, Creedence, Jimmy, or something modern as well. Lady Gaga, Black Keys.
Love it.
Love a lot of singer-songwriters. Maybe we'll throw on some Beastie Boys or some Tupac.
Hell yes. All right. I'm there for that. I'm there for that. J-Bo, I'm going to ship it over to you. And I know right off the bat, a little Rhiannon Giddens in that mix.
Oh, probably a little Rhiannon Giddens, but I would say pretty much, I have pretty eclectic taste. I would say a lot of what Sarah said, little Rhiannon Giddens, but I might throw in a little bit of, depending on what we're doing and what we're cooking, probably a little bit of bluegrass.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, for sure.
More that than country. More, something a little more southern like that.
Absolutely.
But I don't know that anything leaps out when I think about it. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for that question. I would have had a playlist for you.
See, that's what I do. I come out of nowhere. And I love the fact that you said how eclectic you are. And my mind immediately goes to, I think of all these other people from Guild you're friends with, and then you're friends with me. So that's eclectic in and of itself. Let's move on to the deserted island question. Jane, I'm going to start with you. You're going to be stranded on a deserted island. You can only take 3 foods, drinks, or food type items with you, and in inexhaustible supply through the magic of imagination, but only 3. What would they be and why?
Well, Diet Mountain Dew, which needs no explanation. It's what I run on.
Love it.
That would be my drink of choice. I gotta say, Southern girl though I am, I sure do love some pasta.
Nice. Okay.
So probably some pasta. I don't know, but does that come with a sauce, or then I do have my third thing?
I will give you a complimentary sauce. I'll be like Olive Garden for you, Jane.
Pasta with some sort of red sauce, and I don't know. I could pretty much eat butter beans and corn, or whole beans and new potatoes every day forever.
Love it.
So I would say I would take those 3 things.
All right, Sarah, over to you.
I'm going to go with a low country boil, so I can throw as many food groups in there as possible.
Hey, could she do that?
She can. You didn't think of it, Jane. Sorry.
I didn't. All right. I want that. I would have that instead. I want that. That Brunswick Stew then.
Yeah, covers everything. Throw some shrimp and crab and corn and potatoes in there for me. And then I would probably have to have something sweet. So peach cobbler is one of my favorites.
Love it.
Desserts. And for my third item, I guess an unlimited supply of craft beer.
Oh my God.
But I have too many friends in the brewing industry, so I can't pick just one. So
right.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I'm going to be honest, J-Bo. I love you dearly, but I think I'm going to Sarah's Island. I'm just going to tell you.
I'm going there too, man.
Oh my God. Next question. Melanie Denea is an amazing photographer who did a series of coffee table books, 2 to be exact, called My Last Supper and the Next Course. And she did these wonderful pictures of world-class chefs all ask the same 5 questions centered around your ticket's getting punched tomorrow, your last meal is today, what are you eating, what are you drinking, who's there, and why. So, Sarah, I'll throw it over to you. Last meal.
I think I would have to go surf and turf. Maybe a nice pan-seared filet mignon, some crab legs and crawfish with all the fixins.
Nice.
Again, have to throw something sweet. So either a pecan pie and beignets, maybe for dessert.
Love it.
Some roasted root vegetables there, thrown in there. And then I would want my partner and my mom to be there.
Excellent. And what's the send-off cocktail?
Send-off cocktail. Good Kentucky Mule.
Nice. Hell yes. All about that.
Gotta throw the bourbon in there too.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. J-Bo, last meal.
Okay, for my last meal, I'm claiming Sarah's Low Country Boil.
Love it.
And the dessert would be banana pudding.
Nice.
Or possibly what we call Atlantic Beach Pie. Do you know about Atlantic Beach Pie?
I do not, but I'm going to in about 2 seconds.
It's a citrus pie. It's usually what they used to call a refrigerator lemon pie, where it's Eagle Brand milk and lemon juice and egg yolk, and the lemon juice cooks the egg, and you chill it, and it's usually traditionally served in a graham cracker crust. You can do it with lemon or lime or both, and it's wonderful with seafood. It's a great follow-up for a seafood meal. But what makes it Atlantic Beach Pie is you make the crust with saltines instead of graham cracker.
Oh, nice.
And it's really good with Low Country Boil. But if it's my last meal ever, probably the banana pudding. And my cocktail would be a gin and tonic made with Hendrick's Summer Solstice Gin and Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic.
Does it speak to my favor that I knew it would be a Hendrick's Gin and Tonic? Like, does that mean we've spent too much time together?
After the Mountain Dew.
That's right. That's right. Finally, gang, crew, awesome Southern experts. What is food to you in a single word? And I'll go to Jane first.
Well, I have a friend who says food is love. I don't know that I'd go quite that far, but I feel like food is comfort.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
How about you, Sarah?
Food is life.
Love it. Love it as well. I would love to compile the data on the answers to that one, because that's one I've asked since episode 1, and it's so interesting, you know, the density of comfort and life and love. Love is in the mix too. A couple other high hitters, but like comfort and life, man. It's so telling too that like that's what brought us all together to just kind of shoot the crap a little bit about Southern food. You know, it's comfortable. It's for me, when I think of Southern cuisine, I really think of a comfortable meal. And that's telling, because so often I could be inclined to maybe a high-end French meal or something like that. But honestly, if I had my druthers, most of the times I'm going to pick something very comfortable. And for me, comfort is Southern, and certainly it's a big part of life. So, man, thank you, Jane and Sarah, for hanging out tonight.
Sure.
Little audio difficulty in the middle, but I think we recovered well. Plug wise, let me talk a little bit about Sarah, what she's got going on. She's got Cornbread Creative over on Facebook. Be sure to check out Cornbread_creative on Instagram as well. And yeah, listen, if you need to know about Jane Bozarth and what she's got going on, just message the show, because I'll just get on an hour-long conference call and run down about 1/10 of what I know about what she's got going on. So there's that. But again, Southern cuisine, it's a thing, it's real, and I cannot thank these real human beings enough for being here with us tonight. Again, the Dr. Jane Bozarth, the Sarah Beard, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 158 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you this evening, the Dr. Jane Bozarth, the Sarah Beard, representing the South. What? Our producer, as always this evening, has been the lovely, voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out his new reboot of the Johnny Lamoria Show. Next episode will be number 159. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Are you passing through Central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.